Hey everyone, Veronica Belmont here. I am joined by Ariel Mendoza. He is the founder of PixelWarps Studio. See, I got it right. I tried to say Pixel Wraps like 50 times in the past.
Awesome.
So we got it right. So thank you so much for joining me, Ariel.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So how did you become involved with the project of Dust.Evolution? Did Paulo make you a believer, or were you a fan of the board game and everything involved in that world previously? How did you get involved?
Well, to be honest, I had from my previous job a long time ago, I had actually seen the comic books that they were creating and printing at the time when they first released them, and I saw it. It was cool. I'm a big comic guy myself, but I didn't know too much about the game afterwards. I've only been slightly curious about tabletop miniatures in general stuff, maybe some Dungeons and Dragons thrown in there with some other people. But finally, when I did jump into what Dust Tactics was all about, I definitely became immersed in it. I mean, between the story, what he's created, I mean, there's so many twists and turns, so many different characters involved. It's almost like a Game of Thrones in World War II, to be honest. So it's definitely he's definitely made a believer out of me for sure.
So what is your background in the gaming world then?
I come more from the toy side and traditional gaming. For all my experience from before, for like the last 16, 17, actually going on now close to 19 years, has always been with traditional toys, traditional board games. I actually used to help design I don't know if you remember the old Tiger handheld electronics, not for Tiger, but for a different company. That I used to help design a lot of those. So I've always definitely been involved with gaming, just in different avenues, not necessarily the traditional video game space, you could say. But definitely over the course of the last year and a half or so, have made that leap into now the video game side and helping push on with all the creative there.
Have you had to do a lot of research into real-time strategy games or anything similar to that? Are you playing more games now that you're involved with the project?
Oh, definitely a ton. I mean, you can't develop video games without living and breathing it, I guess you could say. Of course, some people might say that whatever you live and work, you might get sick of. But with video games, it's very different. I mean, it's an art form that lets us become immersed in, and I definitely have been playing tons. I mean, considering that I own over 1,000 myself, it's definitely not something that I would ever give up easily. Not even for my marriage, as much as my wife can give a testament to that. But yeah, definitely RTSs in general. Even though just like how we spoke about with Dale before, this is not going to be your traditional RTS. We're talking about something that's very different from what the cameras are going to be like, to the way the units are going to be handled, to the way they're gonna die effectively and gain experience. All those types of things. It's going to be somewhat different, but as a whole, everything from back from Warcraft 2 that I used to enjoy back in college, all the way now to what I'm still playing with, StarCraft and a bunch of other different ones. Yeah, it's definitely a gaming world here in this household, anyways.
Over 1,000 games. I mean, that's. Do you still have them all in your house, or are they mostly downloads, or do you have like
Oh,
boxes and
no.
boxes, or?
Yeah, if you were to include downloads, it becomes a totally different story. You might as well double that. For what I actually have here in my house, yes, I have them all in my house. Some in my garage, some in closets, some of them hooked up. I use a lot of them for research, actually. I mean, I still have my old Nintendo and even a Super Famicom from Japan hooked up that I'm constantly doing research on. I mean, just because games are old doesn't mean we still can't get inspiration from them. So that's what I love, and especially with my son. I have a 7-year-old going on 8-year-old son. I mean, he has his own 3DS and constantly playing different games on there. Avid Minecraft freak. I've bought 3 different versions for him. So it's constant research here, both me and him. He even gives me ideas since we started working on Dust. Many moons ago already. He's been pushing and saying, oh, how would this walk, and how would these units go? And he even met Paolo himself when he was here in Miami. So
I think that's really interesting because I think kids, they look at things so outside the box, and video games and just internet culture in general are so intrinsic to like their day-to-day lives that they have these different perspectives, I think, that are very interesting and very different from an adult perspective, especially when it comes to just, ease of use, design. This is all like in them. It's all been absorbed by them, so it feels very natural for them to ask these kinds of questions and to have comments like that.
It's true. I mean, even from an accessibility standpoint, I mean, we want everyone. Not that everyone would play, Dust the same way. Not everybody plays Pokemon or Call of Duty or something like that. But obviously, we would love thousands, millions of people to play Dust. So even though I might not personally let him play when it comes to the finished game, still deep down he gives a lot of insights. The way he holds things, I mean, the way he might hold an iPad, the way he controls when he's playing Minecraft, when he's playing on the computer. There's lots of different insights that we get. I mean, I definitely don't remember what I used to be like when I was playing my Nintendo way back when, but it comes around. It's good to have the kids that play, and I have three, so all three of them play.
All right, it's a family affair, I suppose.
So because she tries to clamp down on the time, but it's good.
At this point it's like why even bother? I try to disconnect myself sometimes, and it's difficult, and they're so used to it. It's like a totally different world from when we were growing up. So you guys have been doing the Kickstarter for what is it? How many days are you in at this point?
We're a couple of weeks in already. I think we have 16 or 15 days left to go, if I remember correctly. Gotten some great feedback from both. It's not as great, numbers-wise as we would like it to be, but from a feedback perspective, it's definitely been, something that we've been able to learn from.
Mm-hmm. And now the stretch goals mention Wii U, PS4, and Xbox One, but they don't mention mobile. Is mobile something you guys are planning for? Is there a mobile version sometime in the works?
Actually, there is. It's something that we wanted to hold back on at the very beginning. Mobile in itself is a whole nother paradigm. Even though everyone has jumped obviously on the mobile bandwagon, and even the big developers are all making mobile games, the way they control obviously is still very different. Touchscreen makes some things somewhat easier, but the form factors, them being much smaller, still affect the way something would play. So even though, let's say, something like the iPad, for example, has a very, very higher resolution than even most monitors that people are still, reading something on a laptop or a desktop today. The small size is still a challenge when it comes to the amount of elements that we would be throwing on the screen. You ask Dale, and he'd be like, "We'll have our support units and spec support units, and we'll have snipers out in front, and all these different things are going to be interchangeable from the camera view." All this has to be super thought of in a way in advance, because we don't want, obviously, the experience when someone first downloads that mobile game. We don't want them to think, we don't want it to be like an Assassin's Creed Unity all of a sudden, where we're like, multiplayer, I can't play this right, it's not working. No digs at them, but we want, being that we're a much smaller studio, we have much smaller leeway, in forgiveness. So we want them. We're giving the fans and the newcomers something that they're going to enjoy from the very beginning. So to answer your question, make a long answer short, sorry. It's definitely in the works. We have a lot of interesting things that we're thinking up for it. It's just going to take some time.
Well, can you tell us about some of the cool things that you have planned? I mean, how different is this mobile version going to be from the planned console versions?
Well, I don't know if, you've definitely the companion apps, for example, that we've thrown in there. What is cool about mobile versus your traditional console that you might be tethered to a TV, the mobile thing would let you experience Dust anywhere you want. So we're talking about being able to log into your account. You're going to see all your cool inventory that you're going to have. You're going to be able to, modify it on the fly. Obviously we're still working out what options will be available, but you might be able to take your hero, maybe change a uniform, your mechs, you'll be able to change all your different colors, your insignia, things like that. Cool camouflage options. Just like how you might, download Gran Turismo 6 or Forza, you open up your livery editor, all of a sudden you're doing cool designs and drawings on your own car. We want, not necessarily that we're going to have, a bunch of anime across our mechs, but something to that degree where people can personalize it. Where when you're battling somebody and you see that mech coming at you with a big skull and crossbones across it, who knows? You're going to be afraid because you know who that person is. We want to bring that type of experience. experience.
I want way more customization. I want to have like a pink mech with like a big like outline of a kitty cat like on the front, because that's intimidating in like a totally different way. You're like, maybe you don't expect me to murder the crap out of you, but at the same time then I kind of come from behind and you're like, oh crap, I just got murdered by the pink kitty mech. Like that's kind of appealing, I think, to a certain demographic.
It could be, yeah. See, we have to respect the female players. The female players, I know 50 of them.
Hey, that's gender discrimination. There could be plenty of guys out there that want pink kitty. I think that's you have to keep it open. I don't want to be brushed with broad strokes here.
No, 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 not at all. No, we welcome everybody and any and yeah, you know what? I don't want to destroy Paulo's vision either. You know, if he wants to allow pink mechs, then that'll be a much bigger creative discussion that we would have to have. But yeah, I mean, something along those lines, we definitely want to give people those options. We would have something similar to a codex, I guess you could say, where you would be able to see all the different units that exist in the Dust universe, and it would almost be like a checklist, kind of like a Magic the Gathering, where you see every single card, but then all of a sudden, okay, I'm checking off because I got these 10 that in this squad that I want, and these 5 in this special set that I want, things like that. That we want to be able to add onto mobile. And what's cool is that you'll be able to do that from anywhere, because you can log on your iPad and do it, and who knows what.
All right. Well, we covered the mobile pretty well. What about other handheld devices like the DS, which we mentioned earlier, or something like the PS Vita?
Those are pretty challenging. You would think that they would be easy to work with, but the hard part there, the portable definitely works. I mean, you would be able to take Dust on the go, and our plans eventually would be to see some version of Dust on both. I mean, the 3DS alone, the operation mechanics are similar to the Wii U, for example. You would have your touch screen, and then you have your main screen where you can see all your action. Your touch screen could be similar to the Pip-Boy, like how Dale explained before, where you're constantly going between your different view angles and whatnot. The harder part with that is obviously your program size is much more limited because of the cartridge, and then we would have our other constraints, such as horsepower and whatnot. Would that deliver the great Dust experience that we want to push? Definitely, because I've seen some incredible games on the 3DS and on the Vita as well. It's just obviously something that would take a little bit more thought and work into. But I mean, we want to see Dust everywhere. We could imagine, for example, the PS Vita has the awesome touchscreen on the back. So imagine you're able to go through all your different options on the fly while you're using the joysticks on the front. There's a bunch of different things that we could do. There's some plans that we already in the works, but I got to keep that on the wraps. But it's definitely possible.
Very cool. So we mentioned, of course, fans who are familiar with the Dust universe know that it has a massive tabletop and miniature following out there. Is there some kind of way to translate that excitement and that obsession into a more virtual space?
Okay. I knew I would have to break this eventually. It's cool that you mentioned miniatures. Obviously, miniature gaming in itself is huge, and I would actually be happy to say that we're actually working with Nintendo on incorporating their Amiibo technology into our figures. There's a lot of investigating that has to go along, how it would work. Obviously approval process and everything. We actually have come in very early. We're amongst the first companies that's approached them to get something going with it. Obviously, the promise we see with the Amiibo line is huge because of the way they've incorporated how it's going to work, interact with the games. You'll be able to save it, go back and forth, and take it to your friend's house. I can imagine where I take my KV-47 unit that I'm playing with on my SSU team. I would have my hero that's battling and saving all the experience that Dale talked about before. Just like that. I would take that unit, touch it on the Wii U pad, save all my stats, that wonderful experience that Dale talked about before. Maybe it's already gone through 10, 15 battles and survived, and it's gotten its battle scars. And I take that and go ahead and send, I go to my friend's house and we're bashing it out there and going crazy, and I'm like, all of a sudden I whip it out, like, wait a minute, hold on, here's my unit, and now all of a sudden he's got something to be afraid of.
That's awesome. So I'm not too familiar with the whole Amiibo situation. So how exactly does that technology work? Can you share anything about that?
Yes, I can share some. Obviously, got confidentiality agreements and everything with them, so I don't want to throw the whole kitchen sink out at everybody without their permission.
Good idea. Let's not do that.
Honestly, everyone knows that Amiibo is launching tomorrow, actually, with Super Smash Brothers. Shout out to them. What's really cool about it is that the Amiibo is gonna facilitate two-way communication, and it's gonna work across a broad range of games. It's not just gonna be stuck on one game. So I'll be able to, at some point we have Dust.Evolution, / Dust.Evolution 2, 3, and so on and so forth. What'll be cool is that now, instead of just having one game, one set of figures that just works only one time or across one experience, Amiibo is allowing that to work across a vast different set of scenes and landscapes where, for example, that Zelda figure, you'll be able to use it in Super Smash Brothers, but then you can put it on Hyrule Warriors, for example. We envision these types of options and things with the Dust Amiibo line. And there's going to be collectability, figures that come into it all of a sudden. Maybe you have that super secret, Jog Luther, for example, that maybe we've only released 100 of them or something like that. Special ones that might have a very specific set of stats, special abilities. All that comes into play where, maybe 5-10 years ago they used to have to do it on cards that you would scan, which got kind of boring because there was nothing there. Now instead you have a whole set of figures that you'll be able to collect, play with, keep them on your desk, have them talking to your game. It would be something pretty incredible to have your entire Dust persona saved onto your hero, because your hero has gone through these 1,000 battles and survived every single time.
So does that mean we could take our KV-47 and bring them into like Super Smash Brothers? Is that how this is supposed to work?
No. I wish that was the case, but no. It's not gonna interact with Nintendo's games in any way. I mean, no. Let me not even broach that subject. No, not at all.
We'll just keep that in the wishful thinking category for now.
It's in my dreamland somewhere. No, it would be it's self-contained within the Dust universe, but it's not contained to just one game.
Okay.
It gives so many more options to go past that. You'll be able to take it. We're exploring options where maybe that same figure, on some type of special portal or something, maybe it's able to talk to your friend's game on, one of the other consoles. Who knows? But that's what Amiibo allows. It lets your play options become so much more grand than just a regular NFC figure.
Well, that you kind of jumped into my next question, so maybe it makes sense to ask now. Oh, that's fine, but like, could Xbox players game with their friends on PS4 or game with their friends on Nintendo? Is there going to be any cross-platform chatter between the game?
That is something that's definitely in the works. Obviously, there's a number of platforms out there that allow that. It's something that a lot of people ask for, and some game companies restrict it for a number of reasons. Whether it's bandwidth issues, server issues. It could. Sometimes it's just restraints and compatibility problems within each platform that make them hard to interact. But that is something we would like to eventually see. Maybe you got your buddy playing on an Xbox One, and you have your super whiz-bang PC, decked out with 4 GTX Titans or something like that, and you guys want to play each other, but he doesn't have a PC. Our plans would be to allow that, where our server rankings, our player ladders, our tournaments, all those different things would access every single platform that the game is playing on.
That's fantastic. So, everyone loves what Oculus, for example, is doing with the Rift. So is there anything there? Is there, will I be able to pilot my own walker, my own mech, while like being able to see out through the slots at the top? Like, is there any? Are you thinking in terms of virtual reality at all, or augmented reality?
Wow, you are really me break out all my secrets today.
That's what I do.
You know what? The hype around the Oculus Rift is well deserved, and they I think it was last week or the week before, they said that they're months away from a retail release. To be honest, just to give you a peek, I was actually playing with my set right here, looking to see what some of those options are going to be. Yes, that's in the cards. Would it necessarily be for first release? I don't want to promise that. There's no way I could promise that. But it's something that we're definitely interested in. Imagine you are in your, Allied Cobra, and you have, you and your co-pilot there, and you're playing. I mean, that could be something that's definitely incredible, especially from an RTS perspective. Who knows? It might be something we build into the game. Might be, an experience, a different experience altogether. But they all build on top of one another. So yeah, you made me spill it. Yes, it's definitely in the works.
Fantastic. All right, well, I think that about covers it. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you'd like to add? Anything about the Kickstarter or stuff you're working on right now?
Just to hit up the Kickstarter, even if we don't make it all the way, we definitely have some other options that are coming in that are helping the game move forward. The game is not going to be abandoned by any stretch of the imagination. It's something where we have all our hearts in. It's a pretty good team, pretty large team at this point. And it's still building, obviously, of people that are working on it. We're in pre-production right now, but we're going to keep on going and have it, something that we can get to an alpha state, and then eventually something that people will be able to play and see. So, I mean, even if the Kickstarter doesn't go, I want to definitely say for everyone to support it, pledge it, give us their comments, give us their feedbacks, things that we want to see, and obviously with some of these other things that we're working with, where, we're working with Nintendo with the Amiibos, that's going to be something that's eventually going to come along. More options of people to play with. We want to make all these platforms, all these different things a reality. And without, getting some foot in the door here, at least with the Kickstarter starting, it'll be much harder. It'll come along, but, we definitely want everyone to join in and help us out.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me for this Hangout.
No problem. Anytime. Just follow us on the Kickstarter. You could follow us on, the Twitter feeds and everything, Facebook page, and just tell us what you want to say. Tell us where you want to see Dust show up, and it'll definitely be there.
Yeah, it's still early enough that you guys, if you have any questions or comments, you can integrate it into the game at this point. It is still totally possible. It's not like you're so far along in development that that's out of the question.
No, yeah, definitely. That's the cool thing. Just like how, I keep on dropping back to the Amiibo thing. Just is so awesome. We want to see that figure being able to play. That a lot of the APIs and everything that we're developing, it still is early enough that if there's a specific option that we can help cater to. Not necessarily, be able to build in all of a sudden, but, all these different things. Obviously, we can't build the golden castle, from the get-go. But, these are things that'll be cool if with the players and the gamers and the fans are telling us, hey, we want to see this. We would try to accommodate them while still staying true to Paolo's vision of Dust and to the vision that we're putting in for the game.
I want to see it on ColecoVision. Can we make that happen?
Yeah.
No, is that out of date? Too much? All right. Well, anyway.
it might end up looking like the ET in the Atari, one of those landfill cartridges that they just dug up. It's going to look just like that.
All right. Yeah, awesome. You can follow Dust.Evolution on Twitter at Dust.Evolution, and of course I'll put a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes here on YouTube and Google+. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.